after the next. It's not a cater roll. Trying to wade through the rain, pain, and the cold. One step after the next. You take one step after the next.
Social media, what is up? It is the GSD guy, Jerry Smith, and we are going to drop some knowledge on you tonight. We're going to have a little bit of fun. So if you're listening on the radio, put your blinkers on and slow down. If you're at home watching on YouTube, make sure you get a soda right now. 1, 2, 3. If you're not back, you're going to miss some good stuff tonight because I am talking to a legend in the GSD community, a legend in the credit and collections industry, a guy that's been hustling since 10 years old selling pretzels, goes from collector, junior collector, senior collector, TO, manager, now absolutely blowing up in the commercial collections industry. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure to bring to you Joseph Grookett Sr., a.k.a. Rock. And if you listen closely, they're chanting his name. What is up, my brother? How
What's
you doing?
What's up, pal? How are you?
Man, I am fired up. When I heard that they brought you on the set, I said there was two things. One, I get to talk to Rock. And I can say this now pretty comfortably, the best collector I've ever heard.
Self-proclaimed king of collectors.
Listen, I'm going to...
Self-proclaimed
I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. I was pretty good myself, but I'm going to give it to you. And we're going to talk a little bit about styles tonight and the way we went about it, because you and I were a little bit different. As you can tell, I was a little bit louder than Mr. Grookett,
much louder,
a.k.a. The Rock, but an absolute legendary. And listen, you've been hustling since 10 years old, though.
Probably
right?
around 10, 9 years old, something like that. The thing is this, growing up from a kid in the neighborhood, you know, parents didn't have much money. You had to figure out ways to get your money, you know. So talking about credit, that type of thing, my father, give me $10. Go get 100 pretzels. There was a lot of warehouses around here in the area. I would hustle my 100 pretzels. But at the end of the day, I had to give my dad back his $10, right? So it was an early education on borrowing, because not only did you borrow it, but you had to pay it back.
Was he charging you juice?
He wasn't charging me juice.
All right, that's good.
But it would take me, you know, 3, 4 runs of selling my pretzels to where I could just purchase my pretzels on my own without having to use his money. You know, when you use other people's money, now you're connected to them. You know, I wanted to break free from that. I wanted to be my own person, sell my own stuff, and manage my own money. So, you know, that was an early lesson in credit for me as I look back on things now. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you know, when we talk about hustle, though, I mean, this is literal hustle. This isn't like, oh, he's hustling. You know, some people just like, they like to throw that word around rather loosely, but you're literally running the streets at 10 years old, selling pretzels, trying to get money back to your dad, and obviously trying to make money for yourself.
Right.
Which is remarkable. And, you know, I think back, you know, I remember doing papers and running and being chased by dogs and shit like that. And
same thing, you know, but you got to start somewhere, right? You know, if you don't put the work ethic in, you know, no matter what you do in life, I mean, you could be selling pretzels, you could be selling cars, you could be doing collections. If you don't put the hard work in, you're never going to reap the reward from it.
Right. You can't just put it. A lot of people want to talk about law of attraction, right? You can't just say, I want to make money.
Yeah, and then it's here. No,
right.
That
you've got to actually take steps that goes along with it.
Yeah, you have to put it in place, you know. And it taught me at a young age how to work and grind for what I wanted, you know. So, and, you know, eventually as I got older, you know, it turned into other things. It wasn't pretzels anymore, you know what I mean? But there was still movement.
Whoa.
It was still movement.
All right, we're not going to go too far here. I don't know we don't know who's watching this. I mean, we are getting lots and lots of views now, Rock. So
I got you. No, I'm talking about...
I think there's like 1,400.
Tens and tens of views.
Tens and tens of views.
Tens and tens of views.
And Rock is off the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming along. This dude, 30 years ago, we met at, I want to say, Steak and Hoagie Works, 6801 Frankfurt Avenue, Building C is in Charles, Philadelphia, 19135. Yes, that was the address for...
And you were how old? 18?
I was 18, so that was about 9 years ago, because I'm 27 now, which we all know.
You're a liar.
Yeah, I'm not a liar. I mean, it's not lying. Come on. So anyway, we've come from... So just to give a little breakdown, because I think this is so fun, because... with some of the guests we've had in the past, like we get to talk a little fun, a little collections, and a little life here. But I can remember being, we met real quick. Hey, what's your name? Hey, it's Joe. Hey, I'm Jerry, this and that. Next thing you know, we're collecting on Strawbridge and Clothier accounts. We won't say certain names, but there was one name that had hiccup problems that we still laugh about to this day. Every once in a while, I'll get a call from this guy. He'll be like, hey, this is... And he starts hiccuping, and we start cracking up. We're not going to drop any names.
We know who it is.
But that was probably about like at least 28 years ago. We played Tecmo Bowl at your mom's house on Castor Ave.
Castor Avenue.
Just
in peace,
wild
Mama.
stuff. Yes, absolutely. Just crazy stuff.
Yes,
you know,
we've been through a lot. You know, we've been through a lot.
And we can't get into all that because the kids might be watching too.
Right. Business, friendship, you know what I mean? It started from there, and it just catapulted from that point.
3 decades is a long time.
Yes, and I've been blessed to have friends like you around me, you know what I mean? On all different levels, you know, even times where I was down, you know what I mean? You call somebody like, listen, need a little motivation, right? You know what I mean? Like, we all need some motivation. And building those good friendships like we have, you know, there's never been a time, regardless of how down we are, we always have somebody to turn on. So we were fortunate. I'm fortunate to have that, you know. So.
Absolutely. A phone call away, now a text away, something like that. But since you are one of the tens of viewers of the show, as you like to point out so much.
Right.
And by the way, Bryan, don't bring anybody on the show again that dresses nicer than me. That's bullshit. All right, so let's just get that out of the way. You know, to your point, we've had some ups and downs together, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you started out, you started off in an apartment, very, very young. You're in your mom's house, apartment, and then all of a sudden you just blow up in the collection scene. I mean, you were dominant. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you were absolutely dominant.
I did very well.
And the next thing you know, about like 20 years old, you got a nice house in Milford, which is crazy to me.
Bought my first house, yeah, and that
remarkable.
That was more motivation. I always wanted to exceed what my parents were doing. You know, that was my goal, is to be better than what they were. You know what I mean? So being able to buy a house at 20 years old, with the help of my mom, credit, you know what I mean? Like, she allowed me to piggyback her credit cards, which helped me build my credit up a little bit, you know. But I wanted to do that. You know, some people want to be the first to graduate college or, you know, in their family, whatever the case was. My goal was to be the first in my immediate family to own a home. You know, I'm a family man, wanted to take care of my children, and that was my goal. Did everything I had to do to make it happen, you know. But it was because of collections and my ability to collect that was getting me the commissions to help me earn that, you know, so.
Yeah, you know, so it's funny. I love to say this, and you've heard the story numerous times about me and getting a haircut, and people say, oh, you're one of those guys, you know, and things like that. But what I tell people now when I do interviews for people, you know, it's funny because you see someone like you, and as successful as you were, you've made a lot of money, no question. You're a homeowner at 20. You're doing quite well. Right. You have 2 great kids, happy, healthy, grandkids. You're in a great relationship. It wasn't always super easy, though. I mean, there was, like you said, you had to. I mean, I remember times, right, visiting in the hospital when you couldn't move. So you've learned the best. You've seen the best of all worlds, right? You've seen it at the top. You've gotten knocked down, but you've climbed back up again. Much like myself, got knocked down again, right? Fitting for your name of Rock, right? Like Rocky, we joke around, Rocky Maivia. Obviously, Rocky Balboa from the fighting city of Philadelphia.
Right.
You know how to get back up, though. I mean, you want to talk about that. That's what I'm talking. That's what we want to give the viewers. That's what we want to give the listeners, right? Inspire them. Inspire me now. Tell me how in the world, after going that high, getting knocked back down, how do you get back up again?
Because sometimes you have no choice but to get back up. You know, I mean, the reality is we're all going to get knocked down in life somehow, some way. You know what I mean? I wasn't blessed to have everything given to me as a child. I was raised by a single mother. You know, so we had to, if we wanted something, we had to make it happen. You know, she could provide us with the bare essentials, you know, the clothing, the housing. But at the end of the day, if we wanted any more, we had to figure that out. You know, even going back to when I was paralyzed with Guillain-Barré when I was 16 years old. When you're stuck in a situation where you have no alternative, you find an alternative, right? I mean, you have to. You know, I'm a kid from Kensington. We had nothing, you had to fight for what you wanted. You know what I mean? Regardless if it was, nice things or, being bullied or whatever the case was, you had to stand up and fight for what was yours, and it changed a lot, as I got older. I realized that, listen, I'm fighting a lot of battles that I really don't need to fight, you know what I mean, or think I have to fight. So what I did was I'd like to, when it came to collections, that gave me an out. That gave me, we had dunning names, right? We had dunning names, right?
What was your dunning name? I remember it.
Calvin Ross.
Calvin Ross.
Calvin
what was
Ross.
your desk number?
That's a good question.
I don't remember.
9?
You might have been 9. I think, yeah, because you took over 9 from me, and I went to 58. I was Tony Hill.
Tony Hill.
I had 2. Derek Webb. Derek Webb got fired.
Right.
And then Tony Hill was born.
Dunning names, yeah. So that was my out, right? So when I come to work, right, I was no longer dealing with Joe Grookett's problems, right? I became Calvin Ross. So I had this pseudo name that I became, artificially became this person.
Calvin Ross is a fun dude.
Yeah, I mean,
Calvin
I could be whatever I wanted to be, right?
That's right. You remember Calvin Ross had a brown Camaro with an Italian flag on the front?
I do remember that.
There was some
louvers on the back windows,
And wait, real quickly, there was a story about the tint on that window, right? Didn't somebody make you peel that off?
Mr. Policeman.
Mr. Policeman got
Mr. Policeman got me.
I said, Rock, what happened to your tint? He's like, fucking police, man. They pulled me over on Frankfurt Ave.
Made me sit there and scratch off the tint right then and there on the window.
Damn. All right.
But lesson learned, right? Lesson learned. Now cars come equipped with tinted windows. You know what I mean? So, but again, the collection job itself just gave me so much education. I learned so much that I would never typically learn, that you can't learn in school. Yeah. It's not taught in school.
It's
right?
not taught in school.
We're
working on that.
Yeah, right?
That's right.
But, and the truth of the matter is a lot of parents don't understand it to even teach their children.
Listen, totally agree. And, I wanted to come back to that, and you're going to segue me in here. Thank you very much, because you had mentioned something that Kathy, your mom, had given you a credit card.
Correct.
And piggybacked you on there.
Correct.
Which was super awesome, right? That helps
Boosted
you
me
out,
right
right?
away.
Authorized user, and as long as she keeps her stuff. And again, these are things that we're going to talk about. These are things that we're going to talk about. And honestly, you know what? At this point in time, what's kind of crazy is we're talking about paying bills. We're talking about credit cards and things like that. We're going to pay the bills. So bear with me 1 second as they chant his name. Hey, guys, listen. This particular episode is being brought to you by Cherry Designs. Cherry Fresh Designs for all your web needs. We're talking some of the dopest websites, including the GSD Guys website, okay? Make sure you hit them up. Graphic design websites, Cherry Fresh Designs. Bryan Cherry is the man. You heard it here first. Wait till you see this. We got the I maybe we'll flash the sign up. I don't know, but it's really cool. Anyway, you got to pay the bills, and that's where we're at. So Kathy's not helping you pay the bills, but she's giving you an education saying, listen, use this card, all the while knowing, I'm boosting my son's credit.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And now all of a sudden, here you are, 20 years old, decent credit score.
Great credit score.
Which is remarkable, okay? Exact opposite of what happened with me.
Correct.
But which is, and that's so important. So let me ask you this. You got that education, maybe without even knowing you were getting that education.
I had no idea I was getting the education. None.
So that's good and bad, right? Because we want to have the combination. I want to help the kids out. I'm going to help out people, too, that have fallen behind in midlife crises. They've gone through a divorce. $1,600 a month. You didn't hear that. Hopefully. We might want to...
Been down that road.
Vern, maybe we should edit that part out. I don't know. We'll talk about that.
Been down that road. We plug in Philadelphia child support system in this thing, too?
Well, that's a whole nother story. I don't... How much more time do we have? Yeah, we ain't
not enough.
We're going to come back. Different suits, different bat time, different bat channel for sure. But you learn that stuff. You learned it, but you didn't learn it. You're like, holy shit, she really hooked me up when it's all said and done. Now, imagine if there was a class to go along with that. I'm curious, as a parent, as a grandparent, right?
Right.
you have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. We all have responsibilities to teach our kids. When would you start teaching the kids now? If you had, looking back now, when would you start that type of education?
I think credit needs to be taught in middle school.
You're going middle.
I'm going middle school.
All right.
Yeah, because that's where the roots are growing, right? That's where you start becoming an adult, right? Learning, if you have a job, maybe a part-time job, whatever the case is, but you need to learn how to manage your money at that point, right? My parents never had money to teach me how to manage money.
Right.
It's hard to teach something that you're not, that you don't have, right? I mean, it was only a wish. Like, I wish we had money. I wish we had this.
Sure.
If I had money, this is what I would do. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't know what to do with it because you would probably just blow it because you don't know how to manage it.
Boom. You know what? I've been looking for the one part where we could drop some music or shoot confetti. But you know what? This is when when I hear that part, that's when I'm gonna take off the jacket because then it gets so hot that I gotta take it off. That's the jacket drop, and when the jacket drops, you just heard something special, and it's so important to manage it, know about money, education. Look, it's money, right? It makes the world go round, they say. So, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that because I think that more and more it has to be done. I myself am more of a high school thinking that maybe junior year and the senior right before they get out. Mm-hmm. But I can understand that. I would certainly make a case for middle school. I get where you're going with that.
I don't think there's a wrong age, right? If you give a 10-year-old 4 quarters, and ask him what he has, right? Does he say 4 quarters or does he say $1?
Yeah.
He may not even know what he has, you know what I mean? But if you teach him at that age and teach him about money and how to save, your previous guest was talking about, his parents teaching him to save, that type of stuff. That's important, but again, not every child has that parent to teach them that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it becomes a curriculum, if it's something that's being taught in school, right? You might not be able to. If a
company were to start teaching people about credit.
Exactly. Money, credit, we don't balance checkbooks no more because it's pretty much done on apps now, right? You know what I mean? So you don't have to do that too much, but.
Let me stop you here. So real quick, so some people have said, there would be concern like you put bill collectors out of business. Now, I personally don't see that because, listen, there's going to be things that happen. I'm curious. 30 years in the business, you've hit every single piece of possibility. You've collected on magazines, right? Subscriptions for magazines. You've collected on bail bonds.
Fingerhut, mail orders.
Fingerhut, mail orders. But then also some of the largest banks in the country.
Correct.
Right? So I'm curious, if we start educating people, do you see a concern like that? I mean, could you imagine a place where there would ever be no collections?
No, because there's always going to be hardship out there.
Right.
There's always going to be hardship, and you could attest to it, even when you were at your best, right, financially and everything else. God forbid you get sick. God forbid you get sick, right? You can't work now. You can't pay those bills. It's something that wasn't seen, or expected, so there are bumps in the roads that could derail you very quickly also, but hopefully, if you manage your money properly, you would have accounted for that, predicting that it may potentially happen as well.
Correct.
So again, it's just education, right? Like if you don't prepare for something, you're not going to be ready. But in that situation,
I wanted to put my jacket back on and take it back off after that comment. Absolutely. I'm not going to do that, but that's what I want to do. That's really good stuff. This is so let me ask you this question. So many people out there struggling right now, right? Mm-hmm. And what's kind of ironic is during the pandemic, it wasn't the case. There was more people paying their bills, partly because you had that extra money, mm-hmm. and partly because things were shut down, right? Which shows me, or tells me anyway, that when it's available, people will pay their bills.
Correct.
It's come full circle now, right? And now everything's open. There's less available money out there. Interest rates are flying off, this and that. We're not going to get political or anything, but the economy's possibly, depends on who you talk to, is going in the tank, unless people are paying their bills now. And it's pretty rough out there for collection agencies. So,
it is.
With all the knowledge that you have, though, doing it for so long, all these different things you've seen. Tell the people, tell that struggling adult right now, right, that didn't have the education, what can they do? What are their options? Like, I know one size doesn't fit all, and I'm putting you on the spot with this one, but just a little piece of advice. You got all these people calling you. 1, 2, 3, what do you do?
Self-awareness is the biggest thing, right? You have to be aware of your situation, what you could potentially, even if you call a creditor, right? If I call a creditor and I don't have money, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they're still going to want their money. At the end of the day, I still can't pay the money, right? However, they may be able to give you advice. You know, there may be you may be able to pick up a part-time job somewhere. You know, your current situation might not be allowing you to take care of the things you got to take care of, but maybe you have to work harder. Maybe you have to GSD, right, and get a second job. You know, maybe you have to go out and Uber a couple days a week. You know, I don't work just one job. I've never worked just one job. I've always worked my full-time job, but had side hustles some way. You know what I mean? Because my bills my salary doesn't always pay my bills, right? Your salary doesn't always pay your expenses, especially when you have kids, grandkids, all these other things. At the end of the day, 99% of us are in the same boat, right? We might not say it, we might not show it. Johnny over there might be driving a brand new Benz, right? While you're driving a squatter. But Johnny's paying $900 a month on that car payment, right? While you're not paying anything. And that guy's stacking up his money in the meantime.
So who's the rich person, right?
Depends how you look at it, right? It all depends on how you look at it.
I gotta take the jacket, put it back on, take it back off again. That's another one, man. You're leading in jacket drops right now.
There you go.
All right.
Go.
So real quickly, now you've done all the retail stuff, and bless your heart, God damn it, you got out just at the right time. Because
Thank God.
Some of these regulators are driving me insane.
Thank God.
Collection laws have changed.
Yes.
People's attitudes towards collectors haven't necessarily changed. You now are moving into the commercial collections full time. You've had tastes of it in different lives, if you will, in the credit world. Now you're in there full time. Talk to me about the differences, because there are ramifications, but there's different ramifications, different rules, and different consequences, right? I mean, things still happen just because you own a business doesn't mean, like we had to pay the bills earlier, just because you own a business doesn't give you a free pass. There's consequences and there's bills that happen in the commercial world.
It actually makes it harder. You know, when you're self-employed, you know, and I speak to these merchants day in and day out, and I hear their stories. You know what I mean? Their intent was to be successful. They work hard. They do everything that they can. Of course. You know, pandemic happens. You know, puts everybody in a whirlwind. You know, they got to try to figure out how to get their new clients, how to make things happen. I got frustrated with retail collections. I got frustrated with the laws. Not that I was illegal. I was never that
No,
guy.
I'll give you that. No,
anybody that I've ever spoken to, I treat with respect. You know what I mean? I understand their situation because I've been there, right?
I would say that you are the nicest jerk I know. Bryan is a social jerk.
Right, I've heard that before.
Not a working jerk, a social jerk, I think it is, right? Social jerk it is.
I think that was quote unquote at one point. Like,
That was that was legitimate. So he's a social jerk. You are the nicest jerk. You could insult someone and be a cynic and just be like, listen, here's the deal. I mean, you are really the king of the backhanded compliment when it's all said and done. But that's what made you so good. Your voice talent,
passive aggression,
was so good. But I sorry, I had to throw that in there anyway. But
just passive aggression. No, I can relate to people. You know, I love people. You know what I mean? I care about people. I want to help people. You know, so when I see people that are in that situation and they don't know how to get out of it, and I can lend a hand by just saying, listen, do this or do this or do this, you know, I get gratification out of that. You know what I mean? Like, some people think, oh, you're a bill collector, you're the worst, and you know, no, I'm not that guy. You know, there's a lot of guys out there that are like that. Unfortunately. Probably not as much anymore because of the regulations and the laws and everything that are going on. But when we started, we've come across some characters, back in the day, that just thought that they could say and speak to anybody and threaten anybody that they want. That doesn't get anything done. They used to use the term, you get more flies with honey or bees with honey, whatever the case is.
Something like that.
Like that's the truth now. Back then it wasn't. Yeah. Back then you had to be aggressive, you had to be assertive, and you had to command that person's attention. But now I think it's different. I took a different approach, and if you understand a certain situation, you could put yourself in their shoes, and it makes it easier because now they want to work with you rather than being told they have to work with you.
So regardless if it's a business where there's different laws or if it's retail, either way, you have solutions that can help these people out one way or the other.
There's a solution to everything, right? I mean, you just have to find it, and when it comes to me working commercial collections, it's a totally different beast. You know what I mean? You're not dealing with consumers over a $300 debt. I may be dealing with people that owe $200,000. You know what I mean? But their businesses are at stake. If you default on a credit card, chances are you may get sued, probably not, but it's going to affect your credit, right? When your business gets sued, because you defaulted, it becomes personal to that person. You know what I mean? Because you're not just working for, you don't care about the credit card at the time. Like, that's $300. I don't care about that. Yeah. But when your business is at stake, and they want to come and put liens on your business or lien your checking accounts or contact your merchants, and seize the money that you're expecting, it becomes a totally different animal.
Woo! All right, so here's all right. GSD Nation has some entrepreneurs out there for sure. Mm-hmm. Small business owners, mid-size owners, aspiring entrepreneurs. You're throwing some heavy words out there. I mean, there's some major ramifications when you're a business owner.
Yeah, there's a lot of guarantors. I mean, and again, this is just what I do. I work for a company that finances businesses. Okay, so there's guarantees. There's personal guarantees that whoever that person is taking this money, if your business fails, me as a lender, I want to make sure that my money doesn't fail, right?
And they're not really even thinking about it at that point. When they're signing the personal guarantee, they're probably like Superman, like
they're happy.
I can't. Right,
they'll sign anything. They don't realize, but until shit hits the fan.
So for all those business owners out there right now, when that personal guarantee, forget about the business, right? The business
go under.
The business goes under, but they got a personal guarantee.
Yes.
Forget about the business is done. They're on the hook. Correct.
That is correct. Now,
not a lot of people understand that.
No, because they're not aware sometimes of what they sign up for. I mean, have you ever sat there and physically read a whole contract for something that you've done?
Listen, I've been talking about this. My goodness, absolutely not. Listen, when they come out of school, when you guys come out of school, you should have to go through a class before you get that credit card. And yes, to your point, people just sign, they get the boom, 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 personal guarantor, all right, whatever. Mm-hmm. What are the ramifications? People need to know that. I totally agree with you. It doesn't matter if it's business or if it's personal. Like, you just got to know. I mean, there's severe ramifications. And what if you have a family, right, and your house is on the line if that business goes down? So, but let me ask you this question. One more question real quickly. They can still be helped. Would it be as simple to say this? And stop me if I'm wrong, because you are certainly more of a commercial collections expert than I am, for sure. If they call you, something could be worked out.
Absolutely.
Hello. Is there a better way to end it? We talk about communications, like just pick up the phone, dial the number, and say what the issue is. That's it.
I plead with people. I'll leave a message for a consumer, and I'll practically plead with them to just call me. I have a solution for you. I can help you.
Another one.
I can help you. Just call me.
Listen, Bryan, keep a tally. All right, I know it's new, but that's what's going to be. The suit jacket drop means that, boom, like, here you're just pleading with them.
Just call me.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Unbelievable stuff. Rock, you are a legend.
Appreciate
One of my
that, buddy.
best friends, one of my longest friends. What a great pleasure. Guys, I hope this helped you out. I hope it inspired you. If it didn't help you, but you know someone that it could help out, please be sure to share it. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, which I find very difficult to believe, make sure you do, okay? Listen, this is the GSD guy. This is The Rock, the legend and self-proclaimed collection champion of the world, and we are out. Thank you so much.
You take one step after the next, it's not okay to roll. Trying to wade through the rain, pain, and the cold. One step after the next. You take one step after the next.